So as you are enabling your IT organization, you're making sure that two critical business goals are always delivered on an ongoing basis. You're responding to urgent business needs. In other words, you're performing changes, in a fast, quick manner, and you are providing in parallel a stable, reliable, and secure services. Of course, you need to set up the stage in order to achieve these two main goals. Business, as you can see, is always trying to be ahead of the game, and it's very detrimental if the support for the business is very much delayed. So you want to be as much as possible in line at the same speed of the business and business-related changes. So something to consider. We talked about, again, whether cloud or not and whether automation or not. Today, the term, I'm sure many of you heard the term Internet of Things. Everything is somewhat on the internet. Your banking is on the internet, your applications are in the internet, your IT is on the internet. Everything and anything that you're doing these days is becoming, one of those internet related things. So very important to keep in mind how you're going to deal with that from a DevOps perspective and from an infrastructure perspective as well. Also, something to consider is that in this day and age, because of the availability of the internet, then your smaller organizations, your mom and pop shop, are becoming more and more of a competitor to your bigger organizations or to your bigger partners, because it could be a very small operation, but the exposure on the internet makes it much bigger than it is. As long as they can deliver, then the client is willing to engage, and that will present, a whole lot of challenges to you. The drivers are the same, whether it's a business or IT drivers. From that perspective, if you take a look at both slides, I moved from one slide to the other. You probably didn't notice the change, other than the very bottom of the slide. What it says, you notice the similarities, and or your biggest competitor is a startup, right? So in terms of driving DevOps, is being driven by business and by IT for some of the same reason across the board. Some of the discussions that you are having from a DevOps point of view is that it is introducing a great deal of business value. It is enabling the business to become much faster in terms of deployment. It becomes much more profitable because of the shorter, life cycle. It's enabling market share because of the speed, under which the business now is able to deliver, as an example. And organizations that actually adopted the DevOps approach are much faster in all of that, and much higher in performance, and are really introducing a much more competitive advantage, right? Or holding rather more competitive advantage, in the market. So with the DevOps considerations, you are increasing your agility, you are increasing your stability. As you can see from the statistics on the slide, you are increasing your ability to deliver, to ship, and your ability to minimize failure, to restore. So all of this is happening because we now have not just the processes that enables all of this. I mean, best practice in general provided you all of these processes, but now it's a different way of thinking, right? It's a different way of consideration. Rather than waiting, for the project to get done after an extended, period of time, we are introducing at a much smaller, much more frequent, right, code, much more frequent scale, where to sustain the business value over time. Some of the values associated with DevOps is what we call calms. So culture is one of the biggest aspects, one of the most important aspects that you need to work on if and when you are introducing DevOps. DevOps itself is a culture on its own. So you can't just come in and say, okay, well, tomorrow we're going to do this DevOps things. It's not going to work. You need to have the mindset. You need to have the ability to work together. Your functional groups basically have to communicate and have to link eye to eye, as we say, right? So there is automation that is very important to the success of DevOps itself. Of course, lean, so minimize and eliminate waste as much as possible. Measurements and measurement methods, and you have to know exactly what your metrics are, and sharing knowledge and sharing results and sharing activities, right? So the historical discussion about who is accountable and who is responsible and so on also changes, in the mindset of DevOps, especially where we are sharing, activities. So as you can see, this is more of a cultural movement that is based on a number of different processes as well. But the concept itself is not about the process or about a framework, because also, as you're going to see, it depends on a number of different frameworks, right, to work appropriately.